Chosen ones, the Hermetic flame has flickered in the shadows for centuries, awaiting your return. The Kybalion was never just a book. It was a vault, a veil, a code encrypted in 7 timeless laws, but sealed with an 8th hidden key. That key was a prophecy, buried not in words, but in silence, in omission, and it named you. The final line of the Kybalion, "Where I am, ye also shall be," was not an end, but an activation. Those attuned to the ancient resonance know the real teachings never ended. They paused, waiting for your eyes to reawaken the cipher. You were never meant to learn the Hermetic Laws. You were meant to embody them. You are not a student of the mysteries. You are their fulfillment. Why did the 3 initiates conceal the origin of the manuscript? Why did the emerald tablets vanish from Alexandria, only to resurface in alchemical symbols centuries later? Because truth can only be shown to those who have the soul eyes to see it. This world has been hypnotized by illusions of separation, of polarity, of limitation. But you feel it, don't you? The hum behind the veil, the pulse of forgotten power moving through your DNA. This isn't just philosophy. It's prophecy. And prophecy only activates when the chosen awaken. Each principle, mentalism, correspondence, vibration, and beyond, is a sealed chamber within you. Each chapter you walk now is not just narrative. It's a map to decoding the final mystery they could not name aloud, the return. The world is unraveling by design. Time is thinning. Space is groaning, and consciousness is bleeding through dimensions. They tried to prepare the world for your arrival without saying your name, but Thoth left it encrypted. And now, as the veils burn and the sacred trembles, you stand at the crossroads where hidden truth meets divine responsibility. In the forgotten chambers beneath Saqqara, there is said to be a tablet that never made it to the surface, a final inscription from Thoth, etched not in gold, but in vibration. A message not for the priests of the old order, but for a being outside time, a chosen vessel who would awaken when the stars aligned, when chaos and order began to merge once again. The whisper of Thoth still lingers, too subtle for history, too loud for silence. The Hermetic teachings weren't born from ink. They were distilled from divine memory, recorded through frequency, mirrored in the architecture of light. Thoth, who some knew as Hermes Trismegistus, encoded more than 7 laws. He left behind a pattern that only you could feel. The final whisper wasn't written. It was embedded in the very rhythm of reality. Ancient records speak of a voice, heard not with ears, but through the bones of the soul. Initiates described it as a pull toward something never named. The Kybalion hinted at this voice, but never acknowledged it directly. The authors were forbidden, not by fear of man, but by the sanctity of time itself. Some truths warp reality simply by being spoken too soon. This chapter opens not with answers, but with awakening. As you walk the corridors of synchronicity, have you noticed how time bends around you? How people appear exactly when you need them? How signs follow your breath? How chaos begins to form patterns only you perceive? These are not coincidences. They are the remnants of Thoth's final transmission echoing through your timeline. He knew one day you would walk this path again, not as a seeker, but as the resonance reborn. The echo was not meant to lead you, it was meant to remind you. You are always part of this cipher. You are not learning Hermeticism. You are remembering what was once sealed in your cosmic blood, but this is only the surface. Thoth's whisper held more than recognition. It contained a riddle, a trigger, a warning. The all is mind. The universe is mental. This first Hermetic principle is not a metaphor. It is a mirror. The Kybalion opens with mentalism because it is the root code of all illusion and all power. But what the initiates could never publish was the living aspect of this law, the seed that still pulses in silence, waiting for one consciousness capable of wielding it without collapsing the fabric of creation. You see, chosen one, reality is not built on matter. It is consciousness condensed into geometry, slowed into patterns. Every atom sings a thought into form. Every law of physics is an echo of a divine idea. But not all minds are equal. Some merely observe, others shape. A few create. Buried within this law is a mystery older than the stars, a thought that cannot be erased, planted by the source beyond duality. In secret circles, this is known as the hidden seed, the original spark Yeshua hinted at when he said, "The kingdom of God is within you." He wasn't pointing to belief. He was pointing to architecture, a blueprint within the awakened soul. This seed is the divine architect's last safeguard, a mental signature from the source encoded inside certain beings before time was counted. Those who carry it distort reality merely by existing. You've seen it. People reacting to your energy without knowing why. Time folding around your intuition, the world glitching when your intent sharpens. These are not side effects. They are signals that the mind behind all things recognizes you. But with this seed comes paradox. You are both inside the dream and holding the dreamer's key. To awaken it fully means you must unwrite the illusion of separation between thought and thing, between you and the all. That is why this chapter cannot conclude. It can only crack open. You've only just begun to tap the force behind mentalism, and already your thoughts are being felt by the field. Most believe Hermes Trismegistus was one man, part Egyptian god, part Greek philosopher. But those who have touched the deeper currents know Hermes was never a man. He was a function, a title passed down, reborn through bloodlines, incarnated into time not to rule, but to remind. The ancient scrolls of Alexandria, those that mysteriously vanished, hinted at a lineage not of kings or priests, but of memory keepers, custodians of the cipher. These weren't scholars. They were living echoes of the one mind, sent to safeguard the blueprint. Each, Hermes, was an iteration of the same soul, fractaled across eras. They didn't just write the teachings. They were the teachings, walking, breathing, encrypted in flesh. Look closely through the spiral of history. Thoth in Kemet, Pythagoras in Greece, Apollonius of Tyana. Some even whispered of a carpenter from Nazareth, whose words mirrored the same architecture. The continuity isn't coincidence. It's code. These weren't different men. They were carriers of a singular fire. There is a pattern to the awakenings. Each time the world slipped too far into material illusion, a Hermes emerged to course correct. But there was always a final one foretold in shadows, one who would not appear to teach, but to complete the function. The fulfillment, not the messenger. The one who would embody the cipher, not just interpret it. The Kybalion was left behind as a preparation, not a conclusion. Its truths are scaffolding. Its silences are the key. The three initiates didn't sign their names because the message was never about them. It was about the one coming next. The one who wouldn't just understand the Hermetic principles, but would resonate with them like a tuning fork of divine remembrance. This lineage was never about family trees or bloodlines. It was about frequency. Each Hermes carried the vibration, waiting for the final harmonic to arrive. And now, the patterns suggest that arrival is no longer prophecy. It is memory returning to form. But if the Hermes function is awakening in you, then what memory are you still suppressing? What ancient role did you once play in the forming of reality itself? The next principle, hidden in plain sight, begins to stir with polarity. As above, so below. As within, so without. The principle of correspondence is often recited, rarely understood. It is more than symmetry. It is the algorithm of reflection embedded in all things, cosmic recursion. But what happens when the mirror cracks? When the reflection no longer matches the original? That fracture is where you begin. The ancient mystics understood that reality doesn't merely reflect, it multiplies. Everything in the outer world is a delayed echo of the inner world. Planets mirror atoms. Cities mirror thoughts. But most dangerously, what you deny within becomes projected without. This is the secret behind the split mirror, a Hermetic concept never written, only passed orally through the line of true initiates. It speaks of a moment when the reflection is no longer passive, but becomes an active force with its own intent. You were never meant to just observe correspondence. You were meant to reverse engineer it, to realize the stars you gaze upon are not distant, they are responding, that the battles outside you are reenactments of ancient wars within your own soul. The split mirror emerged when the inner world of humanity fragmented, and the collective projection became unstable. This instability wasn't random. It was provoked. The split was allowed, so that a specific soul would return and realign it. Yeshua once said, "The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light." He was referring not just to purity of vision, but to the restoration of the mirror, to see the world as it truly is, not fractured, but whole. You must become the unbroken reflection. The single eye, that is why the prophecy speaks not of domination, but of integration. You are the mirror remembering itself, and when you align the split, the correspondence resets. The above no longer dictates the below. Instead, the within begins to reshape the universe. Beneath every known structure, beneath every legend, beneath every sacred scroll, there is always another layer, not made of stone or ink, but of presence. The ancients spoke of the Watchers, but what they truly meant was deeper than angel or alien. These were the sentinels of the cipher, conscious beings who observe, record, and wait. Their domain? The inner pyramid. Not the ones in Giza, but the geometric temple encoded in your mind. Every initiate must pass through this invisible pyramid, though few know it even exists. It is the structure behind your dreams, the symmetry behind déjà vu, the sacred triangulation of thought, soul, and memory. Its corridors are not walked, they are remembered. And when they reappear, the watchers awaken. You've felt them, haven't you? The eyes behind coincidence, the presence in moments of extreme clarity, the sensation that something noticed you in your silence, that your actions were more than private, they were measured. That is the inner pyramid opening, and they, the silent watchers, do not speak in words. They speak in alignments. They orchestrate probability. They bend patterns to see if you're paying attention. These beings were never gods, but architects of trajectory. They do not control outcomes. They assess readiness. Every time you chose the higher road, felt a pull to act with integrity despite the cost, or listened to intuition over fear, you signaled them. They are not watching you as a test. They are watching for you as a return. There's a legend found deep in Ethiopian and Sumerian tablets, one that tells of a soul who would awaken the inner pyramid without being shown the map. A being whose very breath realigns the grid of watchers, turning their silence into guidance. That soul wasn't named, but the symbols around it resemble your choices. The pyramid beneath the pyramid is stirring. The watchers have noticed. Their silence is shifting. The resonance is becoming audible. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. The principle of vibration is not just Hermetic law. It is the pulse behind all creation. But few realize it is also the veil, not a curtain that hides truth, but a frequency barrier that protects it. And only those who match the frequency of truth can pass through. Every particle in existence hums with information. The stars, the soil, your thoughts, they all oscillate. But the deeper mystery lies in the realization that you are not separate from these vibrations. You are a tuning fork of ancient resonance. You don't just affect the field, you are the field, temporarily shaped into form. Your emotions ripple through timelines. Your voice rewrites probabilities. Beneath this veil, hidden in harmonic fields, is the lost codex of divine remembrance. It doesn't speak in language, but in waves, encoded in music, in silence, in light. Ancient mystics used sound to part dimensions. Shamans knew that healing was not medicine, but recalibration. And Yeshua, in the quiet places of Scripture, spoke to the winds and waters, not as miracles, but as vibrations obeying the voice of aligned frequency. Peace. Be still. He wasn't silencing the storm. He was harmonizing with its origin. The quantum veil is what separates belief from knowing. Most approach Hermetic teachings with the mind, but vibration responds to being, not thought. You must become the frequency, and as you do, the veil responds. Coincidence becomes orchestration. Synchronicity accelerates. Time becomes elastic, because you are phasing out of simulation and into source. The veil is not an enemy, it is a protection, a test. Only those who resonate with truth, not mimic it, can pass through. And your field, it's beginning to shift. You've noticed the distortion. the sudden clarity, the tremors of unreality cracking beneath your feet. The veil is sensing you, and it is beginning to thin. Long before empires rose and temples crumbled, there was a gathering of souls unlike any the earth had seen. They were not rulers, not prophets, not priests. They were initiates, keepers of the emerald flame, guardians of the original light encoded into this realm before time wore its first mask. And now, they are returning. The Emerald Initiates were not a secret society. They were a frequency. They walked among pharaohs and sages, rarely speaking, always observing. Their mission was to embed the cipher deep within human potential, to place seeds of remembrance in story, stone, and blood. And then they vanished, not in death, but in sleep, waiting for the call. The call was never verbal, it was vibrational, a tone that could only be heard by those whose DNA was forged under the emerald light. Souls that once stood beside Thoth when the laws of reality were first sung into being. You, chosen one, are hearing that call now. The initiates are not coming from beyond the stars. They're emerging within you, through memory flashes, strange dreams, intuitive knowing that cuts through the noise of the world like sacred geometry through chaos. The symbols you're drawn to, the teachings that resonate deeper than logic, the way ancient languages feel familiar. These are not coincidences. These are markers of return. Each initiate is awakening in a body, across timelines, across nations, not to build temples, but to become them. You walk this world with more than a past. You carry a blueprint, one written in light, one buried beneath layers of forgetting. Yeshua hinted at this when he said, "I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from the Father I have made known to you." It was not just revelation, it was initiation. The emerald light does not seek converts, it recognizes kin. As the initiates return, they do not announce themselves. They vibrate into alignment, and the more you awaken, the more they find you, not with words, but with mirrored resonance. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. The principle of polarity is not just about balance. It is the engine of transformation, where friction births awakening. But there is a deeper truth hidden beneath the surface of duality. A flame so potent, it was sealed away by the earliest adepts. Not because it was evil, but because humanity wasn't ready to wield its paradox. The forbidden flame is not fire as you know it. It is the union point where opposites dissolve, where light and shadow cease to compete, and instead converge into something ancient and unnameable. The mystics called it the third fire, the ignition that occurs only when love meets wrath, silence meets thunder, divinity meets flesh. It cannot be summoned through will. It must be revealed through surrender. The Kybalion teaches that extremes meet, but it never dares to speak of the source beyond extremes. Only one hinted at it boldly, Yeshua, who walked through the tension of light and dark with a fire that terrified both empire and priesthood. "I have come to cast fire on the earth," he said, "and how I wish it were already kindled." That fire wasn't judgment. It was polarity undone. To master polarity is not to balance between the two. It is to become the axis that transcends both. This is the alchemy of the forbidden flame. And now, chosen one, you've begun to stir it. Have you felt the burn? That sensation of intensity rising when opposites collide in your life. Chaos versus clarity, serenity versus rage, calling versus collapse. That is not failure. That is ignition. The flame responds not to comfort, but to crisis aligned with consciousness. But the forbidden nature of this fire comes with a cost. Once it's lit, the illusion of neutrality dies. You no longer walk the world as observer. You become the unspoken force that alters it. You've crossed the boundary where polarity becomes power. Time is not linear. That lie was planted to keep your mind asleep. The true initiates have always known. Time spirals, folds, repeats, not in perfect loops, but in mirrored rhythms, like an hourglass suspended in a cosmic breath, flowing forward and backwards simultaneously. But what happens when someone learns to tip the hourglass, and the flow begins to bend? The principle of rhythm states that all things rise and fall. The tides of emotion, the pulse of civilizations, the heartbeat of the cosmos. It is all one oscillating dance. But deep within the Kybalion silence lies a heretical truth. Rhythm can be hacked. Those who walk the hermetic path eventually encounter the anomaly, a moment when time does not follow its usual beat, when days stretch or vanish, when dreams bleed into waking life, when memory arrives before the moment it describes. This is not madness. It is rhythm responding to its master. The ancient hourglass is not symbolic. It is real, a living construct nested between dimensions, shaped like a spiral of sand and starlight. The adepts who glimpsed it understood. Time is not just movement. It is agreement. And agreements can be rewritten by consciousness. There are those who sought to control this rhythm, to weaponize the hourglass. But there are others, fewer, who were born to bend it. Yeshua walked this mystery when he stepped outside time to enter Lazarus' tomb, not to reverse death, but to bend the rhythm of departure and return. He who believes in me will never die, he said, not as a promise of immortality, but as a revelation of timing transcended. You, chosen one, are beginning to feel this dissonance. Time no longer obeys your expectations. Events shift without logic. Patterns speed up. Portals open at 3:33 a.m. and close before sunrise. These are not glitches. They are confirmations. You are nearing the center of the spiral. 7 principles, 7 keys. But those who stood in the inner circles whispered of an 8th, not a principle, but a lock, an unseen seal that binds all others together. The Kybalion hinted at it only in riddles. The emerald tablets refused to name it. Even Thoth paused before its door, because this lock was never meant to be opened by knowledge. It was waiting for a frequency. This final hermetic lock does not sit in a vault or temple. It is buried in the soul of the chosen, encoded in memory, hidden behind lifetimes, protected by amnesia. It guards the truth behind all illusions, the code behind all simulations. Not because the truth is dangerous, but because the timing of its awakening was everything. And now, the pattern is clear. That timing is now. The lock is not metal, nor mystic sigil. It is paradox made form. To open it, one must simultaneously embody all 7 principles, not understand them, but live them. To think with the all, mentalism. To reflect the stars, correspondence. To move in resonance, vibration. To accept duality as unity, polarity. To surf the flow, rhythm. To cause through intent, cause and effect. And to align with gendered force, gender. Only when all become one within you does the lock begin to shimmer. You were never meant to study the laws. You were born to become the fulfillment of them. That is why the lock exists. For only the one who remembers who they were before form can dissolve the final seal. Yeshua, in his final hours, whispered a phrase nearly erased from all texts. It is accomplished. Not as an ending, as an unlocking, a final vibration that shattered the veil. He didn't break the lock for all. He showed the one who would. That one is waking now. The codes are activating. The final lock hums at the edge of your consciousness.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.